Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you for your continued viewership on my YouTube channel. If you're interested, you can also follow me on Twitter at RealSWInfinite. Definitely drop a follow and feel free to DM me to keep up to date on all your Star Wars content. During the events of the Han Solo standalone film, Star Wars fans were shocked to discover the plotline included a Han Solo love interest other than Princess Leia. Han Solo's love interest, Qi'Ra, grew up on the planet of Corellia with Han, but they separated during their escape attempt. Later, Han comes to meet Qi'Ra again as she works for the Crimson Dawn, a crime syndicate which is also headed by Darth Maul. If you recall, at the end of the Han Solo film, Maul reveals himself to Qi'Ra and summons her to continue their work. Here is where the theory begins. At this point in the film, Qi'Ra is all but freed as her direct leader is killed. However, it seems she chooses to continue serving Crimson Dawn, making it a voluntary choice. It's within my theory that Qi'Ra is actually being trained in the dark arts by Darth Maul himself. And though there's not much evidence outside the film to support this case, there are some interesting parallels we can draw and speculate on, so just allow me to explain. I think the first hint is Qi'Ra's skill level in combat. Qi'Ra displays competence in the handling of weaponry, which seems odd for someone who is simply aiding their crime boss. When we see her attempting to depart Corellia years earlier with Han Solo, she's easily captured and subdued by stormtroopers. Now, after the passage of time, when Han Solo and Qi'Ra meet up later on in the Crimson Dawn's headquarters, she explains to Han that she's learned Terrakasi. Now, ironically, in Star Wars Legends, Darth Maul is also known for having been a practitioner of Terrakasi, so I think it's more than coincidence that Qi'Ra in canon also knows this form of combat. The next point is her willingness to stay with Crimson Dawn. The galaxy far, far away is a huge place, and when being offered to run away with Han, she simply says they'll be found, and thus must continue serving in her role. Now thirdly, we find out that Qi'Ra has the Crimson Dawn seal tattooed on her wrist, and while to some this might communicate a form of slavery or indentured servitude, to me it communicates a form of allegiance. During the film, she elaborates to Han Solo that she's done unspeakable things during her service to the Crimson Dawn. Now, in addition to her allegiance with Crimson Dawn, another piece of information that's relevant is the fact that Qi'Ra now holds the title of Lady. Per the entry, it explains that Lady can be seen as somewhat similar to the title of Lord, whereby communicating rank and wealth. This is further evidence that Qi'Ra is simply not just a right-hand person, but someone who's worked up the rankings of Crimson Dawn. Lastly, it really just comes down to her willingness to stay, as mentioned before, and serve Maul, or perhaps even a larger purpose for the dark side. It could be that out of fear of losing what new power she has, that she uses that fear and anger to attempt to maintain that power instead of losing it. That since she's so quick to stay and report to Maul with no hesitance, that she's truly committed to a cause politically and ideologically too, essentially being consumed by pieces of the dark side. It's with this that I believe Qi'Ra is somewhat of an apprentice to Maul, but perhaps not in the typical Sith Jedi scenario. Perhaps someone who's more so in an apprenticeship, learning the dark side while also learning the ins and outs of running a syndicate, which includes deal-making, betrayal, violence, etc. Now, I saved the best for last in terms of the evidence supporting this theory, and it delves into the comic verse, specifically War of the Bounty Hunters issues number 1 and 2. During the issue, Qi'Ra actually returns and reveals herself to be the person behind the return of Crimson Dawn, and at the same time is hosting the sale of Han Solo, who's frozen in carbonite. Keep in mind this comic takes place between episode 5 and episode 6. It's important to remember that Crimson Dawn does operate in the shadows, and that after the events of Solo, sort of recedes into those shadows, plotting their next move. There's another theory that I'll elaborate on in another video, but before we wrap up here, there's a piece of dialogue at the end of this issue that is very interesting. During the auction, all of Han Solo's debtors show up, namely every big-time bounty hunter and debtor looking to cash in on a massive payday. During their bidding war, Darth Vader appears at the auction and proclaims that Han Solo is his. In this situation, everyone's scared of Darth Vader, either trying to escape or at least displaying some discomfort. Now, on the other hand, and maybe I'm reading into this too much, but Qi'Ra looks towards Vader with a sly, confident smirk and says, well, let's see where this goes. I think this dialogue right here shows that Qi'Ra was actually looking forward or expecting Darth Vader. Perhaps she may even want to test her abilities with him, but who knows at this point? And perhaps we'll see this unfold in the War of the Bounty Hunters as the comic series progresses. Anyway guys, do you think Qi'Ra is an apprentice to Maul and learning about the dark side? And are you excited to learn more about her and the story of Crimson Dawn? Definitely let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And remember, the Force will be with you, always.